At some point during this night, I started thinking that weren't there. I'd been awake for almost an entire day, was freezing. Mentally, I was completely gone. And somehow, I was still riding. This was supposed to be 2 days. Hannover to somewhere farther south. Asleep, then continue to Mainz. Instead, it became the longest ride of my life. 411 kilometers. The original plan was actually sensible. Wake up at 6, pack before the rain, get on the road early. Instead, at about 5:30 in the morning, I woke up to a thunderstorm. Some of my gear had been drying outside, so I had to drag everything back into the tent. Wait, pack again. And then by the time I was finally ready, the earliest start was just a mirage. There was also serious heat coming the following day, and I already knew I had a bed in a flat waiting for me in Mainz. So I came up with a redneck solution. Don't stop tonight. Ride through the cooler hours and turn day 5 and 6 into one continuous ride to Mainz. At a time, it actually sounded reasonable. One eternity later, I finally left Hannover at 11:02, and strangely, everything felt good. I put on a freshly waxed change that I had with me, gear battery changed, lights ready for later, and after the punctures I had the previous days, the bike was finally doing exactly what I wanted it to do. And honestly, I needed something in my life to be simple that day. I already had a lot going on in my head, things that had nothing to do with cycling, and riding wasn't going to solve any of them. But riding gives you a much simpler role. Pedal, eat, drink, follow the road, pedal again. For a few hours, that was exactly what I needed. The kilometers started disappearing. Fields, small towns, bike path, another town, another road. 100 kilometers passed, then more, and physically, I was still okay. The bike was still perfect. My legs were working and I started thinking that maybe this ridiculous plan was actually going to work. That's the strange thing about a ride this long. Normal distances stop meaning anything. 100 kilometers normally feels like a ride. Here, it was basically the beginning. And for a while, riding genuinely felt like the easiest part of my life. There was nothing complicated about it. You turn the pedals, and the road moves underneath you. Then another problem started developing. Everything electronic I owned was dying. My phone, the GoPro, my watch, the Wahoo. And somehow both power banks were empty, which is a fairly serious problem when your brilliant plan involves riding through the entire night. By around kilometer 145, I had reached Münden, or whatever the name is. At roughly 7 in the evening, I stopped at the McDonald's. I was searching for a place like McDonald or Burger King for half an hour. Before ordering, I specifically asked whether there was a plug I could use. The owner told me yes, and I asked him twice, and he said yes. Perfect. So I ordered, and then I asked one of the workers where the plug was. There wasn't one. According to him, I'd basically been told there was one, so I would order something. It was probably the worst food I ate on this entire trip. So now I'd lost time, I'd eaten terrible food, I was so pissed off, and every device I needed for the night was still dying. Kassel was roughly 30 kilometers away. At around 7:45, I started pushing, not for a segment, not because I suddenly felt strong. I was literally racing my batteries. And without lights, navigation or a phone, this overnight plan was over. At around 9, I finally found a coffee shop in Kassel, and there was electricity. I sat there until around 10. Anything I could connect, I connected. And I knew that when I unplugged everything, I was going back out into it. The dark forests were scary, but honestly, the villages started getting to me even more. I passed through dozens of them during the night. The tiny German villages, empty streets, dark houses, a few street lights, then back into the darkness, then another village. And after enough hours without sleep, they all started looking the same. Village, darkness, forest, another village, darkness again. I knew logically that I was moving south, but mentally, it started feeling like I wasn't going anywhere. Like I was trapped in some nightmare that kept resetting itself. The same village, the same road, the same darkness, again and again and again. And eventually, my brain started giving up as well. I started seeing things incorrectly, shadows that seems to move, things at the side of the road that my brain would turn into something else. I was hallucinating. Physical exhaustion is familiar, pain is familiar. I know what tired legs feel like. But when you started questioning whether what you are looking at is actually there, that's different. There was nothing heroic about me at this point. I didn't feel strong, I didn't feel inspirational, I didn't feel like some ultra endurance athlete having an amazing adventure. I felt destroyed, physically and mentally. Everything I'd been carrying in my head before the ride was still there. Except now, I didn't have enough energy left to push it away. I wasn't thinking about Strava, I wasn't thinking about YouTube, I wasn't trying to prove anything. I just kept turning the pedals, once, then again, then again. Sometimes, when you are completely empty, continuing is easier than making another decision. Eventually, the darkness started changing the color. Then the sun came back. At around 5:30 in the morning, an entire day had passed. The rest of the world started waking up. Cars, people going to work, cyclists heading out for their morning ride. Everyone is starting a completely normal day. They were starting Tuesday. And I was still finishing Monday. Just a few kilometers before the flat, I stopped. It was around 10:40 in the morning, about 4 or 5 kilometers into the ride. I walked into a pharmacy in Mainz because I wanted some painkiller. I don't speak German. At that point, I must have looked absolutely destroyed. The woman behind the counter looked at me and asked if I was okay, if I need water, if I needed help. And I still remember that. Because for almost 24 hours, I'd been telling myself the same thing. Keep moving, one more road, one more village, one more kilometer. And then this complete stranger looked at me and basically asked, "Are you actually okay?" And honestly, I don't think I was. And then, Mainz. No finish line sprint, no crowd, no medal, no celebration. I left Hannover at 11:02 the previous morning, and almost 24 hours later, I could finally stop. 411 kilometers, 23 hours, 49 minutes, and 29 seconds elapsed. The longest ride of my life. There are rides you finish feeling strong, there are rides you finish feeling proud, and there are rides where, when it's finally over, you don't feel like you have conquered anything. You are just grateful that you made it through. Sometimes finishing doesn't look like winning. Sometimes it just means you made it through.